Welcome to the latest episode of PiXL Drone Show, our weekly podcast where we cover everything that is cool and interesting with drones. My co-hosts are Haya Kestelou and Greg Reverdio. Today we have not one, but two women powerhouses with us. First is Desiree, who is known as Drone Diva Desi Ekstein, and Kim Players, also known as First Lady of Drones. You probably know them as co-hosts of Coffee Connections with Women and Drones. And Desi is also a UAS safety advisor. Outside of this, Desi and Kim educate students from elementary age all the way up through college, and they work on getting more girls into STEM. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
So, before we get into the obvious about drones, I want to know how the two of you met.
Desi?
Okay, well, we actually started many years ago at a meetup. We're out there in the field with several different people, and Kim and I were actually flying on different teams, and our paths kept crossing. And so it was just pretty exciting to actually see other people that were there flying. And actually, there weren't a lot of ladies there. So, of course, we stand out when we're there, right?
Absolutely. Yep. So we never really got to connect there. It was just kind of like we were, we just shadows passing by. But as soon as I got home, we reached out to each other, and it was, we just had such great chemistry. We're both very enthusiastic women that, embrace that. And yeah, it was definitely designed by God. It was beautiful from the get-go.
That's awesome.
So, Desi, let's start with you. How did you get into drones? What attracted you to drones?
Okay, I have to say the classic higher perspective, the flying camera, all that kind of thing. So many years ago, I was ready for a career change, and I grabbed onto the drone industry. Started with the classic AR Parrot, flying it with my tablet, and crashed it several times, right? And then you're probably familiar with, or some of you may or may not be familiar with, the 333 exemption that the FAA put into effect many years ago. So I went, well, I guess if I'm going to do this, I better get that, right? So I opted to go through the 333 exemption. I got it, but I was not a private pilot like you are, Greg. So kudos to you there. I would love to be one. So I opted for the lighter than air. Well, I went through the ground school. First time up in a hot air balloon, I had an incident with the propane leak. Well, obviously, in a hot air balloon, you're not going to mix propane and that flame, right? So we came down 200 feet, came straight down, and I went, I think I'm going to keep my feet on the ground and my head in the clouds. So I opted to wait for the 107 to come along, and I went that route. So that's the start of my career, and I've just been doing that higher perspective ever since. I love it.
Awesome. Well then, Kim, we're moving on to you. What is your story, and what is your first drone?
Oh, where do I start? So, my background is always been in training. I used to train professional bodybuilders back in the day. Then I went into personal training people in their homes, because that's what the stars were doing. So I'm like, let me do that. And then from that, raising kids and stuff, when I hit like 40, I said, what do I want to do when I grow up? I always loved training. So I was asked to do a lot of leadership training and conferences for women. And then I got into speaking, inspirational speaking for like Liberty Mutual and stuff. And then when I hit 50, when social media hit, like a lot of people thought that they were inspirational speakers. And like in 2008, 2010, a lot of companies they were cutting the fat off. And so they weren't hiring, speakers like they were before. So I'm like, what do I want to do now? I'm going to be 50. I still got lots of life. I just feel great. So I was at an actual speaking event at the Helicopter Museum in Philadelphia, where I live, right outside of Philadelphia. And one of my friends that is a military policeman, he had an Inspire One drone. I'd never really seen a drone. It wasn't on my radar. So I went up to him like, dude, what is that? And he's like, it's a drone. He tells me the story of search and rescue. It was like if you ever saw the movie Despicable Me, It was like this light bulb went off in my head. And I'm like, light bulb. And I'm like, can you teach me how to fly that? And it just like overtook me. And I didn't have to know how, which is so important. I just had this big why. And so once I learned how to fly a drone, we actually learned how to build a drone. Wasn't a Part 107. So anyways, built a drone, flew a couple like hexacopters, quadcopters, and then the octocopter. And my first drone was the Phantom 3 Advanced. That was the hottest drone at the time. And the rest is history. It just ignited this everything I've done in my life. Like it was just when that drone came into my life, it was a celebration of all the skills that I've learned throughout my life. And I'm sure you guys would agree about the same thing. That's what's exciting about drones.
That's awesome to hear, and I can tell you by the sound of your voice that you're excited still about flying drones. That's awesome.
Totally.
So, Desi, you're an adjunct instructor of unmanned aerial systems at Mira Costa College in California. What subjects do you teach?
I actually am the aerial instructor, so we go through the whole gamut of workforce development for the drone industry. From my perspective, we go through the Part 107 material that would help them for their test prep. Then we actually segue outdoors, and I'm really big on safety, so I really spend a lot of time honing in on the safety aspects of flight. And then we segue over to the mapping and doing Pix4D and processing the data and putting out 3D models. We have each cohort is a little bit different, where we get to focus on whatever is a hot topic for the class that is actually in session. And so there's been times where we've actually had accident reconstruction, night ops, different activities. And so my portion of it, though, is the aerial aspect of it, and it's pretty exciting. And it's really it's just such a blessing to see people that come in not having any idea about drones or anything like that, never flying one, and we take them through the whole gamut of, okay, now you are ready for the 107 and you are ready to go take flight and be a safe pilot.
Oh, that's awesome. We had Skip Fredericks on the show recently. I don't know if you're familiar with who he is,
Sure.
but he had said that his students range in age, but also he's seeing more women than anything interested in his courses. Do you see that trend?
I have, yes. And actually, I've worked with Skip on a few of his night classes. So it's really exciting to
Oh,
be out there. And I
yeah.
do see a lot of women in his classes. I've actually seen a trend, and it's not that I'm seeing a huge growing number, but literally from the first class that we had at TCI, I have seen, okay, I had one, and then I had none. And now I see two or three. And so I do actually start to see a trend, and I'm really excited about that. It's definitely needed.
Kim, you started Master Your Drone Flight Training School. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. I just a little side note by what you were asking about the ladies. It used
Oh,
to be back in the day where a guy showed up in a sports car and that's how he attracted a woman. Now all you gotta have is a drone, and they
oh, wow.
right? Nice
Drone's
drone. You're like,
a lot less
hey, what's
expensive.
that? Right? The new
Hmm.
way. So just thought about that. Just kind of cute. Anyway, so yeah, so master your drone. When I started flying drones, I had a business partner, and we had a company called Digital Drone Dynamics, and that was about a little over 4 years ago. And on our opening day of our, at the hotel to show people what we do, our drone boot camps, he never showed up. Unbeknownst to me, he had a double stroke and passed away.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? He's like the operations, and I missed him, so on and so forth. So I just went out and started flying and doing gigs, which I love doing. And then this guy reached out to me on Facebook that I had talked to prior when I was looking for locations. And he called me. He's like, Kim, you have this drone boot camp and you fly drones. It's just really interesting. how's it going? And I told him what happened. He goes, well, what would it take to get it going? I think that's a really great idea. So we met, I showed him my business plan, and he asked me what I required. I'm like, I really require some money. I need some capital. And he says, I think I can get you that. So he says, give me a couple weeks. He called me that night. He had found me an investor. Then I was referred to Penn State. They had it was their first year of doing, they were giving out grants for entrepreneurs, for small businesses. And so they had 200 applicants, and everybody went in with their kind of Shark Tank, things that they do. And, I went in with my drones and I won. So I won a micro grant from Penn State, which was awesome. That paid for my website. And it was really, it was really cool. Once again, it's what I want people to know is that, anybody can get into drones and you can use what you already know. Like Tony Robbins says, do what you know, don't do what you don't know. And it's so valuable to focus on what you know. That's one reason why I love Desi so much, because, she does the opposite of what I do, but yet together we are so much more powerful and beneficial to the industry and for women, right? So anyway, so with that Penn State, it was really cool because I'm going to tell you, and I'm not a real competitive person. I'm my own biggest competition. But when I went in there, I knew I was going to win. I can't tell you in my life when I felt that way. I just knew it. And I won out of 200 applicants. They gave away 5. I won, and I was the only person that was over 30 that didn't go to Penn State. So it was a huge victory. And then after that, I wrote a big essay, and I was accepted into the accelerator program that actually launched HSN. And they accepted me into their program, and they gave me 3 years of office space to build my business.
Wow.
So, I mean, yeah, right? So that's awesome. So the opportunity was there. And from there, just started building the business. We get a wide range of people. I mean, I've had bougie people come in from the Hamptons that they bring in they have their nanny drove in because they want her to fly a drone while they're in Mexico drinking margaritas on the beach. They don't want to be responsible for it. So like, how about if I send my nanny in? I'm like, bring her in. So we'll do like a fast track one day. We have a pilot that teaches some of our Part 107. He'll actually look up where people are going on vacation to let them know what the laws are there. They're going in as hobbyists, but they still need to fly safe. We, go through like a couple of cute, fun, intelligent modes. Then we go to the aspect of people that want to get into do it as a business. Our business exploded during COVID because so many people had time and they had money. And so, we trained a lot of people that didn't want to go back to their job. And many of them have been very successful, which once again, when they win, Master Your Drone wins, and that's super exciting. And then we've been contracted to do workforce development where we, go into cities where they have us, teach people how to fly drones indoors using telos. We set up obstacle courses, drone simulators, and then we do online Part 107. And then last but not least, which is a secret sauce that I don't usually tell people about, Master Your Drone does team building corporate events, which are just so exciting to see teams in the corporate work together because they think they know something. When you come in with a drone, it just shows people a new appreciation for somebody on their team that they never thought of. So so that's what we do, and I love it, as you can tell, and we all love it. We just love what we do.
So you said that you started out in Pennsylvania and you got your start there. Where else are you based, or where else could people find you?
We just launched in Southern Florida, so we have 2 locations. Wow. Yeah, 2 locations. COVID has held us back, like people getting sick, so on and so forth. And so I just kind of took a break from traveling down there right now because there's a lot of chaos, period, right?
Yeah.
So in the wintertime. But so I'll be down there February, and we launched in Coconut Creek, and then we also have we did 2 offices in the same vicinity, but both have different demographics. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, let's do both. Why choose, right? So I'm a big both person. Why do you have to choose? Figure out how to get both. So we're doing Coconut Creek and we're doing Lauderhill. So Lauderhill will be more workforce development, and then Coconut Creek will be, for people that come in that want to learn how to fly drones, regardless if they want to do it for a hobbyist or or as a new career.
Yeah,
You
very
you
nice.
got me excited. I'm freezing my fingers off when I fly drones this time of year in New York. I think I'm going to open a second location in Southern California as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Come down and fly with us, man.
Yeah, get an RV and move.
That's
Um,
it's funny you say that because we've been Desi and I've been talking about that.
yeah, well, it makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, you can travel where the seasons go and pick your spots. So
Yeah.
I'd be all up for that.
Yeah, and
I got a
2
question.
years ago, I had a vision. I was down. My daughter lives in Florida. She lives on the
Yeah,
West Coast, and we're going to be on the East Coast. But my daughter lives down there, and I was down flying, and I'm like, I got to find a way that I can fly down. I can fly here in the winter and train, and then be in
yeah,
Philadelphia in the summer. And then it just happened, and I didn't even realize it. But the importance of words do not speak void. When you speak something, you really can attract it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
say it.
Yeah, there you go. I'm moving to Southern California. Uh-oh.
There we go.
Uh,
San Diego, here you come.
there you go. Des, you got a question for you. I saw in your bio that you're a top level 3 flight instructor with AUVSI. Can you tell us why that matters, why you picked AUVSI? Always have trouble with that name. And how is it valuable to you?
Well, again, I'm very, very big on the safety aspects of it. And I started out on that career path because of wanting to implement the safety aspects. So I've always been a member of AUVSI. And once they came up with the top program, I thought, okay, this is the right path for me. I liked how they had the levels that were involved. And so when it came time to doing the level 3 pilot instructor, but being or just pilot. When it came to being the instructor side, it was a little bit different, and I wanted to be able to present the material in a proper way that really focused on the safety side of things. And so that's kind of how I ended up going down that path with it, and I have loved it because it really does provide safety. And literally, that is what I'm all about. I'm with the FAA Drone Pros here in San Diego. I try to do safety everywhere I can. And so it just really provided a level of safety that I can now train at. Now,
Yeah, awesome.
I am not with a service provider for the AUVSI Top Level 3, but I am able to provide that type of training material at that level.
Would it benefit you if you team up with a service provider, or how does that work?
Yes, it would. There are some out there. I got my actual level 3 through Embry Riddle, and so I was actually surprised at what went on behind the scenes of what it takes to become the level 3. I had no idea. I had no idea that the FAA offered a FOI exam, and I had to go through and get that. And so it teaches you how to be an educator as well. And I truly appreciated that. It was a big hurdle for me. And so having that knowledge just helped me all around put together my curriculum and present the material and everything.
Awesome.
So I want to talk about women in drone, and I want to talk about your show. So can you tell us how you came up with the idea? What gave you the idea of starting the show, The Coffee Connections?
Okay, I'm going to give that one to Kim because Kim had the idea, and I was totally on board.
He totally was. So when COVID first hit and we were like in the pandemic area a couple of years ago, I had a friend here in Philly and she started doing these online networking through Zoom, right? And so I'm like, okay, this will keep me in the game. But I jumped on and I just didn't really have anything in common with anybody. I'm in the drone business, right? And none of them were really my target market. because they were all people trying to build their, temporary businesses or whatever they were doing, whatever they were building their businesses. So I'm like, I'm just not going to waste my time doing this. And then I'm like, what if we do one with the drone community? Because now that this COVID is hit, I know so many drone people, but they're all over the country, and we don't get to talk that much. We don't get to see each other that much. So let me call Desi and see if she wants to do it. So I called Desi. I'm like, what do you think about doing a drone coffee connection? And she's like, I love it. So, we had to go through, she especially, just so grateful for Desi. She's the technical person, just like she's a safety person. So she worked really hard to, get it all set up. And then we called Sharon to see if she was interested and if she wanted to support us. And of course, Women in Drones. And she's like, oh, I'm totally on board. So really between the three of us, it really took off right from the very beginning. And when people come and speak, they're just like, it's like there's electricity in the air. Mm-hmm. So that's how it got started.
So what do you think makes your show stand out? Maybe walk us through what's it about and what you think, like how you would explain it to other people, why they should tune in.
I think the networking, I think that's a vital part of it. We brought it on about the time that people needed that. They needed that networking. And it was a perfect opportunity to bring people together in a safe environment, that they could be somewhere with people that had the same likes and desires in the same industry. And it was providing knowledge. Another value that I think is so important is that the way that the actual structure of the Coffee Connection works is we have a spotlight speaker, which, by the way, we have not had any of you as a spotlight speaker, and we would love to have you.
We'd love to be on.
That's right.
There we go. How's that for a segue right there? So we usually spotlight someone for about 20 minutes where you just talk about what you're doing in the industry. And everybody is such a wide variety from one aspect to the other, behind the scenes or flying the drones. There's just so many different aspects of the industry. And so we have an opportunity to do a spotlight speaker. And then we segue over to the smaller networking groups. So they're called breakout sessions. And in that is where you really can connect. And I always refer to it like the way we used to do chamber mixers. You used to go in and network with everybody. Well, we're online, but we're doing that. We're doing that where you can actually network on a smaller base with people. And it's just really brought people together all around the world because we're global. And we have people all around the world that are joining in and participating. So it's very, very exciting.
Is that how you chose Zoom as the platform to host it on?
Pretty much, yes. However, I was doing that through my class. So when we had to segue over, I became the Zoom expert, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. So when Kim came to me, I'm just like, yeah, no problem. And I don't think she expected me to take it and run the way I did.
I'm so grateful, right? I'm so grateful. And I just love working with Desi because, Desi and I would say, with the coffee connection, like the big thing is intention, right? And so because we have the intention of collaboration versus competition, we attract people that want to come in and collaborate. And when people come in to collaborate, no matter where you're at in drones, it means that you still have something more to learn. And so whether it's from somebody new or somebody that's been doing it for a while. So that's probably one of the best aspects because people connect. And then, there's so many conversations that go on behind the scenes. Like a lot of my students from the workforce development have connected with several of the, well-established businesses and gotten advice, and they've been so wonderful. So it's really, to me, setting the standard and also, just showing people that this is a collaborative business, not a competitive business. There's tons of people in the world, and there's tons of opportunities for all of us.
So in the 2 years that you guys had this show now, who have been some of the most fascinating guests on your show?
Okay, go ahead, Kim. And I'm going to try
So
not to
I would say,
one.
right, there's just been so many, but I would say the one that blew me away the most is we had a live demonstration of zipline drones in Africa.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
And it was
yeah.
pitch dark, and they showed us how they did that, how they did it. They went through the whole process. They were so awesome. We actually took the whole hour for it, and it was just like, it still gives me chills. It was so like, we're all pioneers in this, and we're so forward thinking, and it actually just tells us that we're on the right track. It's so validating, and so
Hmm.
it was just wonderful to see that. And we always like all those accents as well. So that was my most memorable. How about you, Desi?
And in following up with the zip line, they actually took us through their entire operation. And so it
Yep,
was
Wow.
very, very powerful. And so,
it was.
recently I did a recap of all of the speakers that we had just through the past year. And I have to say they were all phenomenal. And it was so
Yeah.
inspiring that all different aspects of the industry. We John McBride, DSPA. I mean, just amazing.
Vic
Just
Moss.
yes.
Yep, Vic
And so
Moss.
to just say, oh, I'm just not able to do it.
Spotted Eagle from Artel from SMG. I mean, amazing. He just really, him and Jennifer are just such a wealth of knowledge. I mean, they come on and they're just so down to earth. That's what I love about it. They're down to earth, so it's very relatable. We get people that aren't even in drones, like they're just got their Mavic Mini, and they're like, I got to get my Part 107. And then you have
Hmm.
people on there that actually work, on the border flying drones, and they're like, dang it, I missed another coffee connection because they're out, flying on the border. We also had, it was really fun the first year. We didn't do it this year because there was a lot of complications with COVID coming back, but last year we did a 80s Christmas party. So we had a Christmas party online, everybody dressed as, an 80s character. Desi was Madonna, and in her rich girl, in the pink, she was great. I was, hey Mickey, you're so fun. Had the ponytails, my pom poms, but everybody came as a character. And then we hired somebody to come in and we played songs, and people had to guess the song, like, and name that tune. And we had prizes. We had so many prizes. The grand prize was a Mavic Mini. So tons of people won, and it just was really fun and a great way to celebrate together what we do. And once again, just strengthening our relationships to have fun together.
It sounds awesome, and we've been talking to Zipline to see if we can get them on this show, but to get a real time presentation or showcasing how their operation works, of course, would be amazing. For the people that don't know, where can they find you, and how big is your audience, for instance?
So
Desi, you want to?
if you go to the Women in Drones website, they actually, on Women in
Hmm.
Drones, we have a South African chapter as well. And so they have a it's not a coffee connection, it's fireside chat, whereas we have
Yeah.
the coffee connection, but you'll find it on the Women in Drones website. So it's two opportunities that are actually on there for networking. And my platform that I do through the Zoom is a recycled link. So once you sign up through the Women
Hmm.
in Drones, it gets sent out to you every week, and then we just have different speakers on each week.
So
Awesome.
we have an average of about 30 to 40 people on a weekly basis. But we have, I know, over like 250 people that register, like that are registered with it. So definitely a growing platform.
Very
You've
exciting.
probably already covered this, but what would you say are the most rewarding aspects of doing coffee connections?
To me, it's making those connections, making the networks, making having opportunities for people to share and learn and reach out to others in the industry. I think it's brought the whole world together through this platform, and so it's unique. It's very unique in the way that it's presented, and so for me personally, I would have never thought of being a speaker or reaching out and meeting people in South Africa. And yet here we are. And so I love that it's connected the entire world.
And for me, for me, like, it's just so wonderful every week. It's just a positive vibe. It's just this vibe that's positive when there's so much chaos. And it's not just now. Like, life is always full of chaos, but it's an opportunity for people to produce in the chaos because we can't control the chaos. So it's a great way for people to learn. And for me, that's rewarding because I'm a trainer. And if I can give people an opportunity to train in a non-competitive way and walk away from the call and just feel like that's like they have a smile on their face, that's great, because not everybody gets to do that. So to be able to just have people, what do they say, people don't remember everything that you say, but they'll always remember how you make them feel.
So there are a few women centric drone organizations out there. What attracted you to women in drones?
For me personally, I met up with Women in Drones at Interdrone several years ago, and when I left the luncheon, I was just inspired, truly inspired. And to this day, just being near Sharon Rossmark, she's a blessing. Oh my gosh, I have never seen someone with such a big heart for just promoting diversity in the industry. It's just amazing, and so I just immediately gravitated towards that. It's very inspiring being around her and seeing what she's doing to promote the industry.
Quick segue, Desi. I think I met you at that Interdrone Women in Drones luncheon.
Yes,
I
we
think that's where we
did.
met in person. Yeah, I know
Yes,
that.
yes, and I also want to thank you again, Kara, because you also were one of our speakers at the STEM program, the Girls Take Flight program that I do, and so
Oh,
I thank you for that as well.
Memories. Oh my gosh, all the stuff we did before COVID, right?
right.
Right.
Yeah, you forget.
Yes.
So recently at CES, Women in Drones was there with their annual Women to Watch event. Can you tell us what would it take for a woman to receive an accolade? Like, what kind of skills or what kind of achievements are you guys looking for?
Oh my gosh, it was an amazing program. And I also want to thank the sponsors, the honorees, congratulate them. It was amazing. And so the program actually just highlights and recognizes the trailblazers in the industry. People that are out there just really exemplifying diversity and doing amazing things in the industry. And so there's various categories that they offer, and so, like April, she won the STEM. She also works with NASA. So, my classic saying was always, the sky's the limit. But when you see somebody as impressive as April, you go, okay, well, maybe NASA just puts a bigger picture into it, right? And so, it's amazing what people are doing. And then also, companies like USOG, where they're just a team that recognizes diversity there's a need for diversity and that women have a place in the industry, and they're doing all that they can. Aerospace Link is another one. They're doing all that they can to promote having diversity within their organization. And so it's exciting to see what people are doing.
We just had all of them on our coffee connection this week.
Yeah.
They
Oh
all came
wow.
on. Yeah, we had them all on, and which was great. Like you said, like, so people can see that this is legit. Like I said, this is the kind of stuff that should be on the news.
Yeah.
I mean, that call was freaking amazing. It's like people are winning regardless. People are winning. Women are winning. Men are winning. and I'm like, this would have been such a great news link to be on any of the news broadcasts that people can see,
Hmm.
on whatever side of what's going on in our lives. Drones are there to take us to the next level.
So I was wondering, have you ever thought of doing a screen recording of these Zooms and putting it up on YouTube and having a channel that way, so that news stations or other organizations could discover these amazing people?
Fantastic idea. So the replay available, yeah. So the replays are available on the Women in Drones link through our library. But
Okay.
no, as far as making them accessible for the
Yeah.
news media, fantastic idea. Love it.
Thank you so
I think
much.
Yes.
I think you just won an accolade yourself, Kara.
Right,
Sometimes
absolutely.
inspiration hits. I mean, I would like to start a weekly Twitter Spaces, not only for drones but also for NFTs. But I'm not going to segue into that. That's getting off topic. What I do want to ask next is, you've both been awarded and recognized for your achievements. Which ones stand out to each one of you?
Well, I just got to say, when that complete stranger to me, gave me capital money, like that was, I met him. He hadn't met me yet. He had seen my business plan. Then, and he said, okay, I'm going to give her this much. And then he said to me, I said, maybe we should meet, And so he's like, okay, let's have lunch together. So the day we had lunch, and then the next day we were signing the paperwork. So we had lunch, and I decided we went in for lunch. I didn't want to talk about business. He already knows what my business is. Let's just see if we have something in common. He's my age. We had a great lunch. And when I walked out, I didn't want to call our mediator right away because I didn't want to sound needy or like over what, I want to be calm and cool. But he called me, my mediator called me right away. He's like, I just got to tell you, Kim, the investor loved you and he's giving you another like 10 grand. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. So literally when I got that check in the mail, it was like one of the best moments for a personal
Hmm.
win in my life, validation, because literally I drove home. It was a 45-minute drive, and I had a smile on my face so big, and it was awesome. The sun was shining in on my face, and it was like, ah! So that was my moment.
So I have actually two things that just kind of come to my mind when I think about that. Recently, I've published a book, and of course, it's on safety.
Yes, Desi, go girl, go Desi, go Desi.
So,
I'm so happy for her.
how could you fail when you got that for a cheerleader, right? So I'm excited about that. And then another thing that's very exciting to me, but it's not anything that's really out there so much, is have been on several FAA art committees and such like that, and to be in a position that you can shape the future, it's pretty exciting. I was on the FAA CTI board, and so we were able to kind of change and see how the school systems will be addressing drones in the future. And then I'm an alternate for the Women in Drones for the BVLOS. And so just being able to see how the future is going to be playing out, and then of course in my case saying, safety, we need to implement safety in all of this. Where does this play a role? And just building a better future for it. That has been really, really rewarding and exciting for me.
Desi is also the lead representative for the FAA in San Diego.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
For the drone
I
program.
know.
Awesome.
So, I mean, in a male dominant, and to me, that kind of stuff doesn't really matter. I just bloom where I'm planted. But, in a male dominant industry, she's the lead representative. It's like, bow to the queen, bow to the diva, bow to the diva.
Well, thank you, but I don't look at it that way.
So what are some of the things that you're currently working on to help women get involved with drones across the country?
Coffee connection, like because it's, Women in Drones sponsors us, so it's a drone coffee connection. So, being women and inviting women to come on has been a really great way. We've had so many newbies come on. For me, I have a young apprentice club in my drone, my drone business for training. So it's really cool because so many I train kids that have autism. I have 11-year-olds. I mean, literally these parents buy their kids like $4,000 worth of drone equipment, and they're 11 years old, and say, have at it. Like a Mavic Pro 2 with like 8 batteries and the case and everything. And this kid's flying beyond visual line of sight all over like a crazy man. And then they're like, I think we should hire somebody. So we have, young, and then we have, I have older people too. But it's really cool because a lot of times, the moms, it's always the moms. A grandmother will call me, or a mom will call me and say, my son, blah, blah, blah. What do you think about me getting him into drones? And I'm like, first I always say, kudos to you for being a woman and a mother / grandmother that's a forward thinker. I want to just let you know how awesome you are. And so a lot of times, these, like I had a kid that I trained yesterday. He's autism, high level autism, what they call it. And she set me aside. She goes, I want to do this. So once they get involved, they watch me with their kids. A lot of women are starting to get involved and they feel comfortable having a woman instructor. So a lot of the corporate events that we do are women that hire us to come in, and then they're like, I want to learn how to fly a drone. It just is that interesting part. And then we collaborate with a lot of women. So, yeah, just acknowledging women for different, like on the coffee connection. I tend to go out and like surf the Instagram and look for people that I admire. And so like I'll say, hey, let's get my friend Sarah. She's the top FPV pilot in the country. And I met her when she just started. So I'm like, you got to come on. Susan, you got to come on our coffee connection. So, just letting them know that, you're awesome.
Yeah. Are you talking about Rue FPV?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, she was on our connection.
And then Joanne is great. Joanne is out of the Hamptons Drone Design.
Oh, Joanna Steidel. I love her.
She's awesome. Yep. And I met her. I think I followed her. I saw her on Instagram, and that's what I love about the collaboration. Saw her on Instagram, started following her, started sending her notes and saying, hey, I'd love to have you on this call. She kept putting me off. She had a lot of stuff going on personally. And then one day she goes, you know what? Why don't you just come out to the Hamptons and fly with me? I'm like, what? Okay, here I come. The Hamptons were amazing, right?
Yeah,
so I go out to the Hamptons. I'm like, this is totally my vibe. And we just had such a great time hanging out, getting to know each other, becoming besties like overnight. And then she got on the call. So like it's those kind of relationships, that as soon as I met Desi, we started talking and like, I'm coming out to see you. So she had me speak for the FAA in San Diego, which was like so generous and awesome. They had me do like a little motivational, in case you guys didn't wonder, right? So went in and did a little motivational talk, and then for the FAA, right, which is cool. And then I came right out and we hung out. And we flew all over the place in the desert. And thank God for Desi, because she's such a safety person. So when I'm around Desi, I literally lose my safety brain because I think, I don't have to think about it. I got Desi. And so I'm getting ready to launch. She goes, Kim, you do realize there's cables above you. I'm like, I totally did not know that. And that's just, that's what's so cool about hanging out with people that you don't normally hang out with. It's just nice to relax for a second, have somebody else be responsible.
Desi had your back.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
So what I was wondering with all these initiatives, and for instance, women and drones, like, do you guys see that we're getting traction? Like, are more women getting into the drone industry, and are we also able to get more younger women, like students, into the drone industry?
Yes. Okay, so we have gone up, what, 1%?
Yeah.
So,
It's hovering at 6%.
Hey, 1%.
Yeah.
Hey, look at the positive. It's 1%. But I actually feel that having STEM in the curriculum for youth is huge. That is building a brighter future. That is where it's at. There's a lot of engineers. and it used to be that people said, "Oh, I want to be an astronaut when I grow up." Well, you don't hear that so much, and so having STEM and using this tool in our youth, I think it will innovate them. It'll give them that drive to build a better future. And so, being with the Girls Take Flight program, they come in, they're high school girls, and they come in and they don't realize that they can do this. And then all of a sudden, they are coming out of the program with their remote pilot certificate and going, "Wow, I got this. I can do it." And so, having opportunities like that, I think, will definitely build a brighter future.
And in general, I just feel that aviation is really hot right now. Aviation is, like more and more women are getting involved. I was down for Sharon and I were down in Ohio, and we were speaking at the Women of Aviation conference, Women in Aviation, and it was just so many more. They're really, they're asking, we want women pilots. So you have this. They're willing to pay for them to come in, and you have these foxy ladies coming in, man, their nails, their hair, and they're like flying the planes. So it's not the old school, no offense, but a lot of times when it's shocking to see the difference. Like the old school, like you say, have the old school ladies that have paved the way. They saw Amelia Earhart, and now they're paved the way, and they're like in their 70s now. But literally, like their hair is cut like a guy, and they're just because they were in such a male dominant world and to fit in, right? And I hope I don't get judged for saying that, but it was just totally different. I have a picture of me flying with one of them. But then you have this new generation that are, like in their 30s, 20s, late 20s and 30s, and then their hair's long, they're dressed to the nine, and they're able to bring that feminine side to aviation, and that's what's really powerful about it. And the trend is continuing on. And then I also hang out with a bunch of Black Hawk uh, helicopter pilots in our Women in Aviation chapter in Philadelphia, and they fly Blackhawks for they retired out of the service and now they do it corporately. But there's quite a few of them. Then they fly drones now too. So definitely, with women in aviation and with women starting to get together and realize that hey, there's others like us. Like that's the really big thing is there's others like us, and so we can bring that feminine energy in and just really enjoy it.
I think also having the coffee connection in a place like that provides a safe environment where people
Yep.
can
Yeah.
share and feel, okay, this is okay. I can learn from it and I can share from it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with being feminine, and also you can't confuse femininity with being competent. And so
Right.
sometimes I've heard people say, "Oh, look, she's flying her drone in her bikini," and I said, "Well, but she looks great, so
Yeah.
let her." It doesn't detract from anything. I mean, I
Right.
think we can just be ourselves and just be good at what we do. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And I welcome the
That's our goal for
expressing yourself.
2022, isn't it, Desi?
Yeah.
We're
So,
gonna, we're gonna fly we're gonna fly our drones in our bikinis.
so that is a really funny segue into something that I think is funny to share. So I'll share something and then I want Kim to share one. So I love when I go out to the flying field, AMA or whatever, and it used to happen more than it does now, but I can remember pulling up, backing my car in, opening up the back end, pulling out the Inspire 2, and a guy come over and go, "You're going to fly that?" It's like, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
So I made a shirt that says, yeah, I fly like a girl. Try to keep up. So, but a funny story that I hope that Kim can share is the cookie story.
Oh, the drone.
What's she going to do? Make cookies?
Oh yeah, oh that's right. So I was my one of my daughter's friends. She's 25. One of my daughter's friends got a drone, and he called me and he's like, "Hey, Mama Kim, can you come over? I just got a drone. Can you show me a couple of things?" So I'm like, "Okay." He does YouTube. He does YouTube videos, does he? So he may be the connection. I was wondering why I gave him a bonus, and didn't charge him anything. Now it's all coming out. He's done a favor. I've done a favor for him. He's going to owe me. So anyway, so he invited one of his friends that had just gotten a drone too and was going to Japan. He's an English teacher over there. So Luke said to his friend Justin, he's like, yeah, Livy's mom's coming over to fly drones with us. And so Justin said to Luke, what, is she going to bring milk and cookies too? So Luke told me that, and let me tell you something. When I got that drone out, I had my Mavic Pro at 2 at the time. If I would have known that he had said that ahead of time, I would have brought my Inspire. So anyway, so I take that drone out. I am flying it high, flying it all over the place. I lost it because I was showing off. I had those hazardous attitudes, and I looked at it, and I was following a river, and it went west, and I thought it was coming straight back towards us. I'm like, where the heck's my drone? But I was able to check my back. I went through the whole thing, and it was God's perfect plan. So anyways, there's like high stress, but I'm like being cool, but like this inside, bring the drone back safely. And when it landed on the pad, Justin, who said, did she bring milk and cookies, just said, I bow to the queen. I bow to the queen. So, and we've been out flying, we have drone hangouts, take the ladies out, and we'll be maybe at Graffiti Pier in Philadelphia. We've been down at this abandoned airstrip that we go to, and we're flying maybe 2 people on the Inspire, and somebody else is flying their Mavic Pro, all ladies. And literally men and women will come up to us and say, that's so cool, who's flying the drone? We have the controllers in our hands, and they're asking us who's flying the controller. Who's flying the controller?
Crazy.
Yeah, it happens.
Crazy.
It's kind of, we take it as like, yeah, we are, like we're not offended. So much respect, right?
Yes. So we ask most of our guests that come on the show this question, what is your stance on remote ID?
So I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. I see some things that concern me. I hope they're addressed, but in moving things forward, I do feel that we need some sort of identification when we're talking about the advancement of the industry. Remote ID was the way that we are going right now, and it worked for the FAA to implement this. And so I feel that if we are actually going to be having more drone traffic in the air, that is a direction that we have to go. Like I said, there are some things that concern me, and so we'll see how those play out in the future. But for the most part, I think this is something that will eventually advance our industry in a huge way.
I totally concur. It's the law, so that's the way we'll go.
Yeah. A follow-up question right away on this, actually. One of the things with remote ID is that the pilot location is going to be made publicly available, right?
And that's my concern.
I figured. That's why I wrote that question down immediately. I've spoken to many people, and everybody is concerned because you're flying expensive equipment, so that there's a risk there as well. Do you think there's an increased risk for female pilots?
I do. And that is from day one, that has been one of the things that I voice my opinion on, because it puts us at a risk, and being female, and I tend to fly in remote areas where it's not in a congested area where there's security or safety around. And so that is my concern, and it has been since day one.
Yeah, I can imagine. I want to follow up actually on this again immediately, since you work closely with the FAA, and the FAA has been trying to change, and for instance, they now call unmanned aircraft uncrewed to be more inclusive and more diverse. How has their response been when you voice your concerns about the pilot location being made publicly available, and especially, of course, for female pilots? Do they respond and share that concern, or?
So I believe they've taken all of the comments and concerns, and they're addressing them to the best of their ability. But I have yet to see any changes that I've seen come through of how they're going to address it.
It surprises me because everybody keeps comparing it to a license plate, digital license plate in the sky, but I don't think that's an accurate comparison at all. Because for a license plate on the vehicle, you'd still need to be a law enforcement officer to be able to actually identify the person or driving the car, whoever is the registered owner. That's not the same that remote ID is prescribing for us, and yeah, it's a concern that I know a lot of people have.
Right, right. And I feel that law enforcement, they have that authority and they should be able to know where we are
Yeah,
and how to address us, but not just anybody. I
the
totally agree
general
with you.
public. Yeah, I agree. I fail to see the value in that as well. I think it's just a risk.
Yes, yes.
No, I was going to ask, how do you think the it's going to affect the industry from a positive standpoint? Because you said that overall you're good with it. You're good with the idea of remote ID.
Because I feel that moving forward, there needs to be some sort of um, identification and showing where the various drones are in the skies and opening up the skyways, the superhighways, and such like that that they talk about with AAM and such. I feel that identification is needed. There's a lot of different approaches that can be taken, but I feel that if we were to truly move on, and I hate to use the pun of the Jetson era, right? There has to be some sort of an identification or um, some sort of a not a license plate, but just some sort of a ADSB or something like that, identifying where the various drones are.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, I always get the impression that remote ID from the FAA is kind of like a one size fits all. Like we have one system that's supposed to work for everybody, and I think that's partially why it's getting so much resistance. I mean, there's a huge difference, of course, if you're Amazon and you're flying or you're trying to fly drones to deliver packages versus people who fly FPV drones or people who use their drones for landscape photography. I mean, you have so many different use cases for drones, but now here we have this one remote ID rule that's going to be applied to all of us in the same manner. Do you think that's the right approach, or do you think that the FAA should have come up with variations in those regulations?
I think there's opportunity for variations. I feel that there are different levels of safety and risks involved. And so each case should have a certain element of, okay, what's going to be on board. I don't know, as far as I am not a tech person, so I can't say from the
Hmm.
tech side of thing what are some of the options that are available. I know when they implemented the remote ID, it was the better option at the time. And so moving
Yeah.
forward, I think this is a step in the right direction. And hopefully, this will be able to make it a safer environment for getting the air traffic movement.
Yeah, I think part of the problem also is that you have, on one hand, you have the drone industry that's changing and developing at a lightning speed, and then on the other hand, you have this government body that's meant for manned aviation that's now trying to accommodate the drone industry. I think it's difficult, and it shows apparently. Um, Directly to both of your work, how will you be impacted by remote ID? You think?
I just feel that it'll assist people to be more professional because they'll be held more accountable.
Yeah.
So when people are accountable, you know, then they think twice. So I
Hmm.
mean, we still got till 2023 that'll be completely activated. So a lot of things can change. But for me, I just feel like accountability is always good. And so yeah, people even when they start with the Part 107, now they have the trust um, that Greg is, in charge of, and we send people to that. But once again, now hobbyists have accountability, and hopefully there'll be less of people, flying into an airport. It was, I guess when I was younger, like in December, or January, because I got a new drone. So that's the kind of things I see. I think that it's definitely something that is it'll work itself out. Just like it's still a new industry, it'll work itself
Yeah,
out.
Mm.
it will have to, I
Drone
think.
pilots are a bit on the rebellious side, so they're not going to bow out gracefully. They're going to bow wow big, right? So
Yeah,
there's going to be, they're going to keep fighting. That's the way drone pilots are. You got the strongest people in the beginning of the race. That are the forward thinkers that have eaten a lot
yeah,
of ground turkey to be where they are today, to have a fillet of every once in a while. The grit,
yeah.
the people that have the grit and the innovation, and that have put in a lot of time and money into it. So it's not gonna bow down. People just keep on fighting until it all works it out.
Oh, I totally agree. I think the potential is way too huge for drones. Even if you only look specifically at how drones help to save people's lives. I mean, if you see what firemen are doing with drones, how search and rescue parties are using drones to find people, it's way more effective than anything they've done in the past. So yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we're the safest industry in terms of flight hours and incidents. If you compare it to manned aviation, and we have this huge untapped potential. So I totally agree that we should not bow down quietly at all.
Right. And there's
So,
always two sides to the story. So, I'm not at the FAA, and I don't know the calls that they get in, the people that are getting
oh yeah,
for doing bad things. I don't see that on a daily basis, which they do. And so
hmm,
that's a real strong component on their side, because there's always
yeah,
two sides to the story.
Mhm.
yeah.
All they
You're
do
right.
is get complaints about drones.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's again my turn. I'm just looking at the list of questions and I see my name popping up a couple of times in a row. Desi, this one is for you. I read in your bio again that you enjoy off-road adventures and that you guys are making 3D models of old mining areas and old mines. And I would imagine you probably use drones for that. Can you tell me what's going on and what are you guys doing?
Okay, so I could talk forever on that subject.
Yes, you can.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
So, my husband and I, we've always been off-road adventurers. I have what they call a dual sport, which is a on street and dirt bike, so we can go off-road as well. And and my husband is a gold digger, so he's a prospector.
Ah,
Really, he has a couple of gold claims, but very much involved with the old mining industry. And there's a lot of history that's out there that has weathered away, been vandalized, and such like that. So we love to go out into the desert. I pack a drone on his back. And and then yes, he gets to explore the mining area, and I get to fly the drone and make a 3D model from it. And in that case of it, we're preserving history. There's a lot of history that
yeah.
is just not available for people. And then this presents it in a new way. It's not just taking an image. It's actually, you can get in there and do the 3D model, rotate it around and see all the different aspects of it. And so
So, So do you 3D model it by flying over and around the mine, or do you also fly into the mine and 3D model the actual mine itself, the shaft?
So we've done a whole gamut of different ways, but a lot of it is more the outbuildings, some of the hoppers that are left over, the cabins that they've lived in, the buildings where they actually did the processing of the equipment and such like that. And so I'll map out that part of it and create the 3D model of that. And there are some that we've actually been able to go in and do a 3D model of. There's others that we've actually, back in the old school days, we actually tied ropes onto a camera and dropped them down into the shaft. And to our surprise, on one of them, it was like 300 feet deep and it had tunnels going off to the sides. And so pretty unique,
Wow.
pretty exciting. So I love doing it. It's so fun.
So I have a double-edged question. Do drones help you find gold? And I'm also curious, since I used to work with Drone Deploy, what is your preferred mapping software?
Ooh.
You don't have to answer that if drones help you find gold. You can keep that one to yourself.
I wish.
We
I
don't need a bunch
wish.
of wannabe
I'm
miners
inviting
out
you as
there.
your partner.
Oh my gosh, I wish. No, but you know what? They actually have helped in the case of like my husband's claim. He's got a couple claims. And so the way the water flows pushes gold to one area or another. So it used to be we would be like boots in the field and we would walk it and say, okay, here's a good place to dig or not dig. Well, I could just fly it. And I can go, okay,
Yeah.
here's where the water would have flown here or there, and he can go back and look at it. He can also look at his claim. His claim is like 600 by 600 or something. Don't quote me on that. But he's got those markers out there. Well, they're like placed way at the top of these hills and the weeds and in garbage and sometimes snakes. And so I can take the drone out and I can fly it and make sure his markers are still standing and in their good shape and all that. And so there's actually been a lot of value in having it. And so
Mhm.
the drone, just as an FYI, I have the Inspire. Believe it or not, I have a backpack for my Inspire. Uh, we also have a smaller
Wow.
one. I have the Mavic Mini or the Mavic Pro 2. And so I'll send that one out. And I call it, his name is Scout. And it'll go out and scout everything and make sure it's safe for the Inspire to fly. And so then I go, okay, now we're going to get serious and we're going to put up the Inspire and let it go do its
Yeah,
work.
because we don't want to lose an Inspire.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
So
Quickly, which mapping software do you like to
So,
use?
being an instructor, okay, so I'm PiXL certified. I started
Okay.
originally with Drone Deploy, all time
Hmm.
favorite. I love Drone Deploy. Uh, then also Drone Harmony. Being an instructor, I've tried to learn several of them. So
Okay.
I will literally go and do the data acquisition, and then I come back and I'll process it in all of them and go, okay, what's the comparison here? And so, and then I'll even take it out of like Pix4D or whatever and run it through reality capture. And so try to just kind of analyze who's putting out the best data.
Okay. So we are going to wrap up here. This might be our longest episode ever.
Is that
It's been
good?
amazing. This has been an amazing conversation.
Thank
So
you.
we always conclude our show with one question, and it is, what is your favorite drone to fly?
I think I just kind of said that. However, look, I just jumped right
Yeah.
in there. However, I did just get the DJI FPV, and
Okay.
I've
Ah.
been loving it. So it's not my only FPV, but it's the one I fly the best, obviously. So I love it.
I'm definitely a Mavic. I have the Phantoms, I have the Mavics, and I just love the Mavics. They just always, it's like just such a comfortable fly. But if I haven't flown my Phantom 4 and I get that, I'm like, oh, I forget how much I love flying this drone too. And I have the Inspire. That's a whole that inspires me every time too. So you know, it's just like with cars. I'd like to have 3 or 4 different cars because each one is cool. But there's that one that's just comfortable, and that would be my go-to is the Mavic, any of the Mavics because, well, the Mavic Pro 2 is what I have right now because they're just so easy. They give me so much more flexibility. So,
Yeah, it's a great little drone and it's compact, as
mhm.
they advertised it, the size of a water bottle that you can fit in your
Yep.
pocket. Well, I want to thank you both so much for being on with us today. We could have talked for another hour easily, and I would have loved to. You can check out Desi at onthego.biz, her website, and Kim through Master Your Drone. Coffee Connections can be found on the Women and Drones website, and I highly recommend anyone, man or woman, not only subscribe to be a member to Women in Drones and just get into this wonderful network, but also check out Coffee Connections on there where you can fill out a form if you'd like to be a guest on there. So thank you again. And we look forward to watching more Coffee Connections and interacting with you more.
Well, thank you for having us. It was wonderful talking with you.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you so much, and thank you for capturing our enthusiasm and passion for what we do as women.
Yeah, you make it
Thank you
easy.
for being so passionate about flying drones. It's amazing to have people on the show that actually are passionate.
Mhm.
Totally.